So, hello and welcome to the Agile Matrix podcast, your go-to podcast for everything agile. And here we talk about, how we can break down the frameworks. We look at the practices, the mindset that lead to high-performing teams and thriving organizations. So, I'm your host, Temi, and today we're diving deep into one of the most iconic agile events. Try and guess what it is? It is the Daily Scrum. So today's episode is titled Fixing Your Daily Scrum. So whether you're a seasoned Scrum Master or just starting your Agile journey, you know how crucial those 15 minutes can be for your team's success. But let's be honest, sometimes it can feel like the Daily Scrum is a grind. It can feel dogmatic, it can feel boring, it can feel pointless, right? I'm sure I've been on teams before where when I got there, one of the meetings when the kick out was the daily scrum because there was no point. It was just us meeting again and discussing the same thing over and over again, right? I'm sure some of us have been there. And if you were there, this episode is for you. If you're looking at how to improve your daily scrum, how to get to the next level, if you're currently stuck in the rust your daily scrum, this episode is for you. Okay. So in this episode, we're gonna look at the daily scrum as a whole, talk about some other points. Then we're gonna look at 5 pitfalls. Yes, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pitfalls of the daily scrum, and then how you can avoid them. And if you are in them, how you can come out of them. What are we looking for? We're looking at how we can transform your daily scrum to become a truly energizing, productive, and aligned event for your teams, able to help them achieve their goals. There's a goal to this thing, right? There's a sprint goal. So we're going to look at how you can actually improve your daily scrum to help your teams achieve their goals. Excited much. But before we jump in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share this episode with your friends, with your colleagues, your teammates, and like someone said, even people you don't like. But generally, share this with anyone who wants to level up their agile game, right? So let's transform your daily scrum together and let's take it from dull to dynamic, from inefficient to effective to efficient, and to make your teams more and more reliable. Okay? So let's get right into it. All right, let's get right into it. The daily scrum, what some people call it the daily stand-up. Now let's correct that. It is called the Daily Scrum. It is the Daily Scrum. It's come from Scrum. It's come from the Scrum Guide, and it's called in the Scrum Guide Daily Scrum. So let's stick to it, right? Now we all know that, or I'm assuming safely that we all know it's a 15-minute event, right? And the purpose of the Daily Scrum is for the team to come together and synchronize their effort together, right? Regarding their progress and plans for the next 24 hours of work. The Scrum Guide says that they inspect and adapt their progress towards the sprint goal, right? And that's a very important point. It is towards the sprint goal. It's not just a meeting for them to talk about work. No, it's for them to synchronize their efforts towards achieving the sprint goal, right? So you inspect and adapt the progress of their work towards the sprint goal. You inspect the progress of the work, you adapt the sprint backlog, all with a focus of achieving the sprint goal. Right? This is very important, right? Very, very important. Because if you lose sight of this, the daily scrum becomes just another conversation set. Something you do before you start your day of work. You pick up a cup of tea, you walk into this meeting, you talk with people, and just walk away without any focus. How many of you know that if you don't aim at something, you don't do it, right? If you are driving somewhere, you have no destination, you never get there. So same thing with the daily scrum. It has a purpose, right? Okay, so now let's look at some of the pitfalls that people fall into, and let's look at how we can come out of them and become more effective in our daily scrum. Number one, this is one of the most common pitfalls: turning the daily scrum into a status meeting. Right now, this is where the meeting has become such a bore that it becomes a status meeting that all the team members think about is how they can report to the scrum master, to the product owner. If the product owner is there, should the product owner be there? No. But this is the team talking to whoever is running the meeting to actually prove to that person that they are worth their salary or worth their day rate. So imagine this scenario. So this guy is reading out 7 things. The person beside him isn't even thinking about synchronizing. He's thinking about, oh my God, I only plan to say one thing I'm going to say, but this guy has 7. So I have to think about how to flesh them out so I can prove my worth for the day. That is not the purpose of Daily Scrum, right? That is like a report card session. That is like, hey, I'm working here. I need to prove to you that I'm working here truly, so that I can get paid this week. Or I can get paid end of the month. So I'm looking for what to say that I'm doing. It has no relevance towards the sprint goal. I know that all you want to hear is activity, right? So, like I said, all the hands here is how busy they are. So there's no team collaboration, no synchronization, no sprint goal in mind, just that I'm busy. Have you ever heard of a rocking chair? Can you guess how far a rocking chair goes? It goes nowhere. It's active, back and forth, but actually achieves no work done. That's what we're talking about. So now let's look at the solution. So, okay, first of all, remember that Daily Scrum is for the team. It's not for management, right? So first things first, you shift focus from reporting to collaborating. Like in the previous Scrum guide, we had the 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? And what blockers do you have? And really, it's what are you doing today towards the sprint goal? What blockers do you have in the way of achieving the sprint goal? That is actually the conversation set. Now, in the updated Scrum guide, we've taken that out. So what I'll say is move the conversation from reporting to what do we need to do today to progress towards the sprint goal. You're focusing the team on the sprint goal. The goal is the sprint goal. So it's not whatever you are doing, it's whatever you are doing towards that sprint goal. What that does, it localizes the conversation towards what we are doing to the sprint goal. So it brings focus to the conversation. So in that, there's no space for fluff. There isn't any competition in terms of reporting towards the sprint goal. It's all about what can we as a synchronized team do towards the sprint goal. Right? So that brings everybody and makes everybody aligned towards that big picture. So instead of you picking individual tasks, you're thinking about what we can do as a collective towards the sprint goal. That is why in Kanban, we look at the board from right to left and we ask the question, what do we need to do to complete this ticket? What do we need to do to complete this ticket? What do we as a team need to do to complete that ticket and that ticket and that ticket? And we run like that. So what that does, we're bringing the team into the conversation about what they need to do to complete the ticket to move closer to the sprint goal. It's all about a 24-hour meeting to move closer to the sprint goal. Like some people assume that in the agile space, we do no planning at all. The daily scrum is proof that we plan every single day of the sprint because we plan for 24 hours of work and then we plan again all the way to the end of the sprint, right? So that's pitfall number 1 and a couple of solutions you can apply. Then number 2, going off topic. This is when, the daily scrum starts pretty focused and then one conversation springs up and before we know it, the team is digging down the rabbit hole. Digging and digging and digging and you look up and you spend 20 minutes or you spend 10 minutes on one part of the meeting talking to one person and then you only have 5 minutes for the rest of the team. Right? So, and a couple of things can cause that. Number 1, it could be you digging rabbit hole regarding one conversation, or like it's happened to me before, where I was in a very, very, very technical team in a domain I never worked in before. So, as a Scrum Master, and they were new to Scrum, right? They were new to this. So, when they started, I couldn't pick out where they were going into solutionizing conversations separate from the context for the daily scrum because it was very technical. And sometimes you allow the conversations to get to a head, but it was taking so long to actually get anywhere. So I spoke with the team at the retrospective and saying, okay, how can we optimize this thing? Because this is the purpose of the meeting, but this is what we're experiencing. So as a team, we agreed that we need a nominee to keep the team in check. I didn't want to do it because obviously as a scrum master, remember, my job is that the meeting holds, is effective, and it keeps to its time box. So being effective doesn't necessarily mean I have to be the one doing everything. It's the team. The team owned the meeting. I'm only helping to get them to a good state. So in line with that, the team then, one lady suggest nominated herself to be the person. We called her the knight of the round, and there were a couple of rules that went to the role. So this is the number one rule. Her job is to listen in for when the conversation starts going into solutionizing, because solutionizing is not what you do in the daily scrum. You synchronize. You can have a meeting after. Like I always tell people, it's perfectly normal for a daily scrum to give birth to separate meetings to then look into the solutionizing aspect of what we discussed. So her job was to listen. And once the conversation devolves into solutionizing or is going to go down a rabbit hole, she would say, enough, let's move on. Or she raised up her hand. And the agreement that the team had is that once she raises up her hand or use that Elmo doll or whatever, everybody will stop talking. And then she'll be given the right to say, let's move on to the next person. And that cut the time down immediately. So that's one thing you could do, right? Okay, so I've already given one solution, right? The second solution that is similar to that is what we call the parking lot method. What are we saying? Like I said, it's perfectly normal for a daily scrum to give birth to other meetings. Once you observe that your team is starting to go down the rabbit hole, what he says, okay, let's can we take that offline and discuss that at a separate meeting, and can we move on to the next person? That way, what you're doing is you're bringing the meeting back to its focus point, which is to synchronize towards a daily scrum, right? To synchronize ourselves towards not the daily scrum, sorry, to synchronize our effort towards the sprint goal. I knew that sounded odd. To synchronize our efforts towards the sprint goal, right? So this way, the daily scrum stays laser focused on what is essential, and the team can then dive into specific issues, conversations, and solutions outside the daily scrum's own time box. Let me give you this. I worked in a team once that before, when I got there, the daily scrum was 30 minutes long. And we're like, why? So eventually I was able to help them optimize it to bring it down to 15 minutes. But what we did was, since they had the habit of going solutions through daily scrum, we cut that. But we kept a 15-minute bank of time after the daily scrum that they could use. So that when we told the team, oh, you can take that offline, they didn't feel like they were being kicked out of the conversation. They knew, oh yeah, once we finish, we can actually start discussing in this 15 minutes. And that's how we solved it. So they had in that calendar, they had a 30-minute meeting. But in the invite, it said the daily comes for 15 minutes, and the 15 minutes after for any subsequent conversations that may or may not hold. So in other words, we didn't hold them for if the meeting, if nobody had any subsequent conversation, it was fine. And if they did, all well and good, but it's out of the daily scrum. That's another solution. So I've given you three solutions for that. Okay, pitfall number three. The meeting just goes on and on and on and on. So remember, the daily scrum is meant to be time boxed, which means maximum duration of time allowed, 15 minutes. Obviously, sometimes you have 15 plus one or two, 13, 12. I even had a 10-minute daily scrum. Nothing wrong with that. What we're saying is maximum. Now, like I said, you can have plus or minus 1 or 2 minutes. It happens from time to time, but it shouldn't be the norm. That's the thing. So now you don't want daily scrum to turn into a full blown meeting first thing in the morning. That is a way to knock the energy down for the day. So everyone goes to leave the meeting feeling drained before they've even typed one line of code or before they've done anything. You don't want that. So what do? First things first, there's some crude things you could, I won't say crude, but really you're looking to cut. First thing you could do is, if you're there in daily scrum, your phone put a timer, 10-minute timer. Once it hits 10 minutes, you let the team know that you only have 5 minutes left. That way they're able to constrain themselves. That's one way, right? And another way you could do is um either use your phone or appoint somebody to actually manage it, for someone to say, hey, hey, we need to move on. We only have 10 minutes left or 5 minutes left. So that there's a timekeeper in the team. So you bring the mentality to the team, right? But like I said, you have to ensure you do your best to keep to the time box. Remember what I said, the three things. Ensure the meeting holds, it keeps to its time box and is effective, right? So that's piece for number three. Use a timer. If it gets to the point where the team is so used to just going over the time, use a timer. The first time you do it, you may cut the meeting short in the conversations. Yes, like I said, you can use subsequent conversations. So you have to train your team to the point where they know, okay, we'll take it offline, we'll take it offline, we'll take it offline. They know that part, right? So that's one. Then pitfall number 4, I wrote it down as dry answers or the same answers every day. Now, there's sometimes where your daily scrum feels like Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day, where no progress is being made. All you hear is I'm working on. My God, I was in a team once where I've almost finished was what I heard for 5 days. And I kept on asking this fella, how come you've almost finished, but it's taking 5 days? Yeah, I've been there. So how do you solve this problem? You see, when that happens, it means one of two things. Either the team has lost complete focus of the sprint goal, or there was no sprint goal in the first place, or there was no cohesive sprint goal, or there are some issues within the team, right? And some blockers within the team that they're not being surfaced, or the conversations are not deep enough. It can be any of those things. So what do you do first of all? You have to, as a scrum master, elevate the sprint goal. You have to. Everybody must be fully bought into the idea of that sprint goal, right? So focus on the sprint goal instead of just listing tasks. It's not just activities, disparate activities within the team. There's a goal for the sprint. There's a goal for everything we are doing in this time box, right? So what you start doing is turn the conversation around. Let team members talk about how their work is contributing to the sprint goal, right? So what this does that it reinforces a shared sense of purpose and it breaks down the monotony, right? It also forces all the team members to strategically think about their work rather than just taking off tasks. They're thinking about, oh, we need to finish this because this is the goal, right? That's one way. Then number two, as a scrum master, you can't be absent from the team. So you should be having, you should obviously the board should be something you're monitoring the progress of work, monitoring the age of tickets in each column. Now, if you're wondering what that is, in the show notes, you see link to our courses. We have a course that actually talks about metrics, where we can look at the aging whip and all that, and how to monitor that, and how to use that for your daily scrum. And also, if you look into our show notes, there's a link for a course, a Kanban course among our courses, where we go into this in detail, how to actually optimize your daily scrum using the aging whip and all that. I digress. So let me continue. So, as a scrum master, like I said, you have to be observing these things. What's going on behind the scenes? If you have someone say the same thing today, tomorrow, have a conversation and find out what's actually stopping the person. Is there an institutional or organizational impediment? Is there a lack of skill? Is the ticket too big? You need to find out. Remember, in Scrum, you are inspecting and adapting a process and a product. So your every day of work, every sprint of work is an experiment. So you're tweaking like a DJ, you're tweaking the way people work to get the optimal working or ways of working of the team. So when something is trying to pull down your cycle time or your amount your cycle time generally or reduce your productivity, you need to find out what the problem is, right? And address it appropriately. Now this leads into um, pitfall number 5. In a daily scrum, not addressing blockers. So ignoring the blockers. Now, the daily scrum is a very important meeting to surface what is stopping us from achieving our goal. Remember, it's pretty much like saying a daily scrum is saying, okay, we are heading towards this direction. Is there anything that you need to do to move forward? Now, a blocker is a major stopping point. So if we're talking about achieving the sprint goal, blockers should be surfaced at the daily scrum. If they won't be surfaced anywhere else, they must come out at the daily scrum. And as a scrum master, don't lose sight of your blockers. Do not lose sight of your blockers. A blocker is a call for attention. Let me tell you something. I worked in a scrum team once that we're so mature that we decided as a team that all we discussed at the daily scrum were blockers. The team was so in sync during the day that everyone knew what they were working towards the goal. So what they used to come together was to see what they can do with the blockers. But we left that there because the blockers are so you must not lose sight of your blockers. They cost time and obviously they cost money. Right? So like I always tell people, it's like you washing plates in your sink. That's how you treat blockers. If your sink suddenly gets blocked, do you just abandon the washing of the plates or do you carry them into the toilet and wash? No, you don't. You get a plunge out and you walk on the blocker immediately. That's the issue blockers on your board, right? So address them immediately. And like I always tell people, the Scrum Master is not a blocker remover. The Scrum Master coaches the team to remove their blockers. As the Scrum Master, your last resort to remove blockers. Because if you take the blockers off the team immediately, what you're doing is you're disempowering the team. Obviously, within reason, you can have a very immature team that them going after the blockers would actually be more burdensome than good. But you have to have that goal in mind that the team should own and run their own destiny, right? So, what are we saying? Make it a habit to clear roadblocks or blockers as fast as possible. Why? You're trying to ensure that the team keeps moving forward, right? Now, what this shows to the team is that you, as a scrum master at the team, are committed to resolving issues swiftly and not just paying lip service or ear service to problems, right? So, what are my final thoughts? So now we talk about the 5 pitfalls, but let's just do a little recap. Number one, do not make your daily scrum a status meeting. Don't. It is it's a meeting for the team to synchronize. It's not for management. It's not for ensuring that people are doing their work. Let me hear what you did yesterday. Let me hear what you did yesterday. No, it's not a meeting to prove why they should get paid. No, it's not. It is a it's not a status meeting. It is a synchronizing meeting to synchronize all their effort towards moving closer to the sprint goal. So it's a collaborative meeting, and it is their meeting. That's one. Then number two, maintain focus on the topic, right? Use a parking lot and all the other things I've said to keep focus on the main thing. Keep the main thing, right? Number three, time box the daily scrum. It's 15 minutes. Then number four, ensure that your updates are in line with your sprint goal, right? So it keeps it alive. Then number five, do not ignore blockers. Work on them as soon as they come up, right? Now, if you can avoid these pitfalls, your daily scrum will go from feeling like a chore, from being like a bore, for being like a ceremony, to an energizing, empowering part of your team's day, where where the magic begins, and they're able to drive with passion towards the sprint goal. Now, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Agile Matrix podcast. I hope you are now inspired to level up your daily scrums and take your team's performance to the next and high level. Remember, the magic of Agile is in its details, and by improving just 15 minutes of your day, you can unblock incredible results. It is one of the greatest secrets to being effective, efficient, and a reliable Scrum team. If you enjoyed this episode, which I hope you did, please subscribe and share with your team or anyone you think would benefit from a little more agile in their life. And if you have any questions or topics you want us to cover, drop us a message wherever you're listening to us, and we would definitely love to hear from you. So until next time, keep iterating, keep collaborating, and stay agile. Have a fantastic day, you all. Cheers, everyone.